So my name is Ray, and when I planned and told myself I was going to come and talk today, I had imagined in my mind there was going to be about 6 people. And that we were all going to sit in a circle and it was going to be an informal discussion. So, thank you for being here. Wow. Thank you for your time and your interest in my topic. I'm going to skip the introductions about myself for the sake of time. But if you want to get to know me, take this as an open invitation. We can hang out whenever you want, plan something. But I would like to get to know you a little bit, know my audience. Welcome everyone, come on in. This is the room you want. So quick question. How many of you are here right now, obviously you know the topic, with a specific game in mind that you're thinking about? Go ahead and raise your hand. Fantastic, right? And that was going to be my actual first question, so I'll start with that one again. It might just be the same people. How many of you consider yourselves or recall yourself a game designer or author or inventor? That's why I'm here, right? That's most of us, I hope. So great. Now, when you set out to design your games, how many of you, and again, thank you for raising your hand so I can see you. I'm thinking of who I'm talking to. How many of you have said to yourself, or at least thought, or even said to other people, I just want to make a game that's fun. I want people to know me as the guy who makes fun games. And that's kind of in your goal when you set out. Go ahead and let me know if anybody else is in the same goal when I start. Right? That's why we're here. We want our games to be fun and we want people to enjoy them. So a quick story. I have lots of stories, but I'll cut a lot of them down. But this one, it was my first year at Essen, Germany, for the big game conference. And I was pretty young, a long time ago, and it was brand new. And I thought that if I walked around with all my prototypes in my bag just for 3 days, people would be like, oh, what do you have in your bag? Oh, it's a game prototype? Let's play it. Wow, this is wonderful. I'm going to publish it for you. Right? That's what I thought, and that was my mentality. It doesn't work that way, it turns out. I'll let you know now. If it did, we wouldn't need things like conventions and these conferences. But I did make a lot of friends and meet people, and I was able to go out for drinks after one night with a couple German game designers. And I built up my courage and I said, hey, I have some prototypes in my bag. Will you guys look at them and tell me what you think and give me some feedback? And they did. And in a very German way, they gave me a lot of constructive criticism. To the point where I said that. I said, I just want my games, they asked me, what's your desire being a game designer? What's your goal? I said, I just want to make games that are fun. And they said, they laughed at me, ridiculed me. And they said, you're naive. And there's so many more things about mechanics and weight and all these things that go into game design. And if you just look at making a fun game, it's never going to go anywhere. And I felt that way. And I imagine some of the people who aren't in the room right now looked at the title of the talk and thought the same thing these German guys thought, and said, I'm going to go spend my time somewhere more productive. But I don't agree with that, because I think there's value in understanding why people sit down to play our games. Now, I'm coming from the perspective of board games and tabletop games, and I understand there are some people who are doing digital video games, and I hope these principles also apply. But I will ask again, what is it that is fun universally if we could come up with principles that it doesn't matter really who we are, where we come from? It's going to be something that's fun. Because I'll ask you this question as well. How many of you, let me know, have ever spent hours on a game, lots of effort and time, you get it on the table, and someone just looks at you and they play test and they say, well, it just wasn't very fun. Have you ever had that experience? It's crushing. But what does that even mean? When somebody says your game isn't fun, what are they talking about? It can make or break your game if people enjoy it. And so I think it's worthwhile to understand what that word enjoyment means and what is fun. So like I've already asked, we're here with specific games in mind. I'm going to skip some of the stories of my own games that I've designed. At this time at the end, maybe I'll share them. But my goal right now is to help you understand and think of ways with these games that you're working on and have in your minds to improve them in a sense that they're more fun and enjoyable. Now, if you're the type of person who likes to take notes, when you listen to a talk, I'm the type of talker for you. I'll tell you right now, I have 3 main points, and inside each of those 3 main points there's going to be 3 subpoints. So your paper's going to look really nice. You can go home and show it to your mom. So let's get started. Point number 1, the first principle. Well, before I get started, let me ask, is this why you're here? Is this what you want to know? Okay, so we're all good. There aren't any specific questions. You'll like what I say. Now, principle number 1 is each turn, every player should feel like they are making important and meaningful choices. You know, long gone are the days where we sit down and roll a dice and hope that magically our dice roll is better than everybody else's dice rolls and we get to move across the board faster. I mean, we sit down to play the game, not to watch the game play itself. We need to be making choices that are meaningful and important. So what does meaningful and important choices mean? Here's your 3 subpoints. The first one is, it has an impact on the game. It affects the outcome. A player needs to say, this is happening right now in the game because of a choice I made. And if I have made a different choice, something else would be happening. That's part of that investment that they are experiencing in the game. When we talk about fun, some synonyms are engagement, and I like to say investment. Now, point number 2, for why we need to be making important choices, or what they are. An important and meaningful choice often creates a dilemma. Your player needs to feel the value of their choice, and one of the easiest ways to do this is they have to choose priorities. They have to say, I'm choosing this thing, but I'm losing these other things. I would like to do all of them, but I can only do one. And when they sacrifice their other options, that creates value in the choice they made, and they feel like it's important. Point number 3 is interaction with these choices. A player should feel like their choice affects what the other players are going to do. And at the same time, other players' choices have affected what they are going to do. We don't want to sit down and play 3 versions of solitaire, or however many people are playing, all at the same table. Here's your deck of cards, here's your deck of cards. That's a different topic. Some games do that, but I won't go into that. Because I don't think it's fun. So, a good example of a game that has meaningful and important choices each round, go ahead and nod if you agree if you played the game, is 7 Wonders. Right? That game is all about choices. You get your 7 cards, you want to play all 7 of the cards, but you can only pick one. And you know it needs to be a good one because it's going to affect every turn in the future, because what you can pick in the future depends on what you pick this turn. And you want to play this one, but your neighbor has just played a military card and you don't want to get left behind. Furthermore, if you pass this resource card to the next player, maybe they'll play it, and then you can just buy from them in the future. So it fits all of those impactful, dilemma, and interactive. Okay. Principle number 2. Yes, this is a good one. It might be obvious, but sometimes I think it's not when I'm designing a game and I have to go backwards. Every player should feel like they have a chance to win right up until the end of the game. And it doesn't have to be 100% chance, but they need to have hope. Otherwise, if you already think you've lost, you're not really playing the game anymore. You tap out, you lose focus. And I mean, I often say, people accuse me of being competitive and liking winning. I say, it's not that I like to win, it's that I hate to lose. I don't want to play a game that's going to make me feel hate the whole time. I want to feel like I have a chance, even if it's a small chance. So, every player should feel like they have a chance to win right up till the end. How do you do this? Number 1 is the game needs to have a clear focus and goal. Right from the start, people need to understand what they need to do to win and when and how the game ends. This way they can plan and recognize how to do their moves. Too often I'm playing a game and suddenly it's over and I say, I have no idea why it's over. Or often I'm playing with my wife and she says, yeah, I sat down and played with you, but I had no idea why we were doing what we were doing. So creating a clear focus in the game as an end goal is important. Number 2, this is very common in popular games these days, but it's a great thing to do, is a hidden winner. You don't know who's going to win until the end. Commonly this is done with victory points that you hide, and you count them or calculate them at the end. And that's the most common because I think it's really useful. But if you're designing a game that doesn't lend itself to hidden winner, hidden victory points, one of my favorites is what I call the equal opportunity run, which means that regardless of the score, regardless of who's in the lead, everybody has an equal opportunity to still get points, catch up and win. And so those usually lend themselves to quick games that have fast rounds. So maybe one person is 1 point away from winning, but in the next 3 rounds they lose and somebody else has catch up and wins. It's not impossible, so that everyone is still invested. Number 3, this is a good one, and I'm going to coin this phrase right now, because I know someone after me is speaking about losers having fun. And so you can go there and add this to his top, or maybe he calls it something else. But I call it micro winning. There are micro wins built into your game. Little moments where the player feels a sense of accomplishment and excitement that comes from doing something well. And usually, and I think it's based on the psychology of we like to have things. Like, this is mine, I did this, I have a sense of accomplishment, that's why I'm addicted to video games. I was like, look at my sword, it's level 2. Like, I do that, and I love it. And anyways, this micro winning, let me give you an example of a good game. My wife calls micro winning get money from Power Grid in the get money phase. And so nowadays, no matter what game we're playing, if there's ever a moment where we have a sense of accomplishment, like if we're getting something, we always say, yeah, get money. And that's what we say in my house. But another great game is Small World that follows this principle, because at the very start of the game, everybody knows that in this number of turns, the game is going to end. Whoever has the most victory points is going to win. But despite my best efforts of keeping track of everyone's score throughout the game, I often lose count. And there's micro win. At the end of each of your turns, you get to count how many points you get. So the idea is that not only, so when you lose at the end of the game, you've already just had 10 moments of micro winning, so it kind of outweighs the last moment. And you say something along the lines of, yeah, you know, I didn't beat so-and-so, but it's not like I lost. I just won less. And so that's what you want to create. People feel like winners for playing your game, and they walk right away saying, I just won less, but I'm not a loser. All right, number 3. They just spent an hour this morning talking about the subject, and I'm going to try to spend, I haven't seen a 5 minutes, so maybe 5 minutes talking about it. And that is, there needs to be an element of chance in your game in order to truly be fun. I like to call it, so luck, randomness, I like to call it fate when I'm designing games, because those other words are sometimes bad words in game design. Oh, you know, you can't have any chance, or you can't have any fate. But I call it fate because I think it sounds nicer, and along the idea of, oh, I was fated to win tonight. You know, it was fate that I finally beat you. And it's essential that you have this element for 2 reasons. It really affects the replay value in your game. The first is competitively, nobody wants to play a game that they know they're going to lose, going back to the second principle. In that if this more skilled player beats you every time, like, what was it, the Williams sisters, or the Australia Open, I would not mind playing tennis with the Williams sisters once. I think that would be fun, it'd be a great story, but I would probably never play with them again because I know I would lose. And it would not, maybe they're having fun dominating me, but I'm not like that. Anyways, the other aspect, and they talk a lot about this morning, so if you missed it, I'll summarize a little bit, is replay value is from change. If the game does not change each time it's played, it's a puzzle. And nobody wants to play a puzzle. You figure out and solve the most efficient move set, and you say, wow, I figured it out, and it goes on the shelf. And you never play it again. So it allows the game to change. Now, chance is a very powerful spice that needs to be used skillfully. If you add just a smidgen too much, you've ruined your game and you've ruined the dish. Just like in fine cooking, it requires experience, I'll say practice. And the key word is balance. So how do you find that balance? I'm going to give you a few tips. And I've changed the word when you're thinking about your game and you're saying, how do I balance the chance involved? That's necessary. I don't play chess anymore because I either win or I lose. I'm going to waste time, but I had a conversation. Is chess a game with zero randomness? And based on what I'm about to tell you, I'm going to say not entirely. And this was the topic we had. What about the other person? So when you're talking about chance, the word to use instead is control. I'm going to give you a few questions for when you're going through your game design. Control. What elements does the player control, and what elements does the player not control or have control over? You put them on a list side by side, and then you compare them. The players control this, the players cannot control this. Now once you have that list, you ask yourself, how much do the uncontrolled elements weigh? Meaning, how much do they affect the game? Does the uncontrolled element have more of an effect on the outcome of the game than the player's choices? In my opinion, it should not. And so when I'm designing a game, I want to always make sure that the player has more effect on the outcome than the choice. Number two for control is, does the uncontrolled element affect all players equally? Is everyone affected the same by this something that they can't control? Because if not, the most common thing you'll start to hear come up is it's unfair. Something was unfair. Bad example, I was making a game and I got asked the question, how come when I paid my resources to get this upgrade and I drew a card, I got a +1 upgrade? But on the next turn when he did it and paid the same amount, he got a +4 upgrade, which was a big difference in the outcome of the game. And he says, that wasn't fair. You know, it was random and I had that built in, and I was like, oh, he's absolutely right. I need to balance that because it doesn't affect everyone equally. I think there's a third one. Does anyone know what it is? Maybe there's not. So I lied earlier. This one maybe has just a few points. Okay. Example. Let me give you a good example. There's plenty of games out there with bad examples. A good example of this is Puerto Rico, as well as Power Grid, as well as Small World again. But the only thing that players cannot control in Puerto Rico is which plantations are available. Oh, that's the third point. Okay, great. The question to ask yourself is, how can players interact with the elements they don't control? What choices do they have in regards to those elements? Can they avoid them? Can they somehow mitigate any risk? And if they choose to accept the risk, is there an appropriate reward for them making that choice? So in Puerto Rico, all the plantations that are available are lined out. And if it wasn't the case, then every game my board would end with 1 coffee and 11 corn. That's how I want to play it. Get the money, I buy my own ship, and I get 11 plus points every turn. But it's designed well enough that I can't always do my best plan because I have to react to what is on the table. And that affects everyone equally. But I can choose which plantation I want to take or avoid taking the plantations. And there's also some other factors that allow me to get plantations in other ways. So I don't control it, but I have control over my interactions with it. How much time? What time is it?
We have 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I prepared it so I'd have 5 minutes at this time. And thank you. Would you prefer I share with you a gift, or are there some questions that you might like to ask? Because I can explain the gift and that will take 5 minutes. But if there's something you're dying and itching to know, like I said, we can still be friends. You can talk to me afterwards. A very useful gift. So, thank you for asking. He asked a question about getting the gift, so he did both. You know, it's his choice. He's smart. So, if you talk to any experienced game designer, and I've already heard it come up a few times today, the most important thing you can do to improve your game, let me see if anybody's reading my mind, starts with a P. I hate these kind of questions. Exactly, right? It's playtesting. Honestly, from my experience, I'll just share with you. If you're not playtesting your game, if you are playtesting your game, playtesting more. But here's the issue. It can be very difficult sometimes to interpret what your playtester means when they say it's not fun. You know, what does that mean? So I've prepared for you a gift. I'll get it later, but it's a survey for your playtesters, and it runs through my 3 principles, and it has open-ended questions, so that if you're ever experiencing somebody saying it's just not fun, these questions will help you pinpoint what element is missing, or what element is causing the problem. Do they feel like something's unfair? Do they not have enough control? Do they not understand what's needed to win the game? And this way, and so it didn't cost me much, except countless nights staying up thinking of it. But it's my gift to you because I feel it's very useful. And so I will give that to all of you when we're done, if you would like. And then also, you just get 1 copy, so you can play test 1 person 1 time. Yeah. Or you can go home and Photoshop it, and then I'll also put a link onto it for my Facebook page if you would like to get more copies of it in the future if I run out. But more than 6, I brought 7. Do you have more questions for me, or would you like a story? Story. Okay. So my game that I'm currently kickstarted in 2014. It took me a while to find mass production for it. I was making them myself in the garage, which we'll go talk about good prototypes later, because essentially that's what it is. But anyways, it's called Build Up, and it's a tactical block stacking game. So I was teaching in Taiwan in an elementary school, teaching English, and I designed a lesson plan for doing something that starts with an R, revolving around the children building a castle of blocks. I got to class, I opened my closet, big box of blocks on the top shelf, I pull it down, I look at it, it's mostly empty, no blocks. So I quickly on the spot say, all right, we're all going to share the blocks and build a castle together. And we start doing that, and it is boring. It is not fun. So I say, let's make a game out of it. And the object of the game, this was my brilliant moment, was different than I thought any other block game had done. You need to make the next person knock it down. You're trying to make them knock it down. So then we started doing that, and it was okay, but it still wasn't quite fun. So I went home that night, and game designers design games, just like writers write. It keeps me up at night. I'm laying in bed. How can I apply my principles to this game? So the object of the game is to make the next person knock it down. I wanted to make choice. So I had 20 blocks. You only got 3 cards, and each card represented a block. So you had to choose which one to do. Each card, each block had a point value associated with it. So when it fell down, people always ask, so are you out? I said, no, I don't want to write into the rules that you can't play my game. I want you to play my game. So you get points for making the next person knock it down, and you're trying to get up to 30 points. And every time it falls down, you start over, and you're in a race to get the most points, and at any time someone can catch up. And then that element of chance. In addition to the cards being drawn, that created some bad luck. You could have a bad hand. So to counterbalance that, I added some action cards that were like lifesavers. So you look at it like, oh man, this is bad. And like I was playing last night, and somebody said, oh man, good luck, ha ha ha. And I said, well thank you, I do have good luck. And I put down my cards, so I had fun. I think I still lost, but it was great. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your attention.